All right, we're live. Hello, everyone. Hello. Good evening, and a warm welcome to all at MESC Red Devils NCR. I'm your host, Delvin, and tonight I have with me Anshuman Bhai and Mudit Bhai with me on the stream. Gentlemen, warm welcome to you both. Hope you're doing fine. Hope you're doing well. Uh, before we get into the meat of the topic that is there, just a question that I would love to ask you two gentlemen. Yes, we have a big game against Barca tomorrow, and how are we feeling about that? What are your prospects as far as the game is concerned, and how happy are you to see two of European football's leading lights clashing against each other? It feels like a throwback to the old days. Although we would love to have a reversal of the outcome where we are the ones who emerge victorious for once in a crunch situation. But how joyful are you to see these two sleeping giants once again rise up to some way, still somewhere left, but there is a genuine feeling that both clubs are on to reclaim lost glories. Muhiba, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I'll base my opinion simply on the first leg. So, what we saw in the first leg was both teams going at each other with everything they had. At the end of 90 minutes, I don't think both teams had enough left more to give than what they gave on the pitch. So, I'm expecting more of that. Apart from that, I expect uh, a major tactical shift from Xavi. I think what he will do is replicate what United did and attack from the get go rather than sitting back and consuming pressure. Now, doing that would probably play it into United's hands because United also kind of, they ease themselves into an opponent who's trying to press them hard. Uh, so, what we are seeing with United is when someone is better at attacking, United are better at pressing. But when someone is good at pressing, United are also good at attacking. So counter attacking basically. So it will be interesting to see. Although with Xavi's footballing brain, I again see him trying to kind of mastermind the midfield. But with the absentees that he has, although there is one good news, I guess, who someone is fit who was absent for a long time.
Busquets is back, but he has to play without Pedri and Gavi for the return leg.
Yeah, so that is kind of a problem, especially if we have Casemiro and Sabitzer playing. Uh, but with Busquets, you just never know. He has that one pass in him that could unlock everything that we are trying to do on the field. So it will be interesting to see definitely. But I think we'll get it done.
That's the hope. After a long time, United will be welcoming a team which has the stature, and it's like Eric Ten Hag said, he would want the place to be buzzing like a cauldron, where we want. We played 11 versus 13 in Camp Nou, with the 12th man being the referee and the 13th man being the atmosphere at the Camp Nou. It was an absolutely
Yeah,
electrifying atmosphere.
I'm done with analyzing referees, man. See,
No.
football.
I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying that in Barca's home it was 11 versus 13. So hopefully at Old Trafford it's going to be 12 versus 12. So it'll be a fair and square encounter. Yeah. So Anshuman by Mudit Bhai spoke about Man United adapting and playing according to how the opposition approaches the game from, which means that United have basically after the break of the World Cup, United have gained a reputation of being tactical chameleons, where Ten Hag adapts his players and adapts his style of play based on what the opponents are going to throw at him, which was also pretty evident from the fact in as recent as the Leicester game, where when after Rashford scoring, Ten Hag went ahead and spoke to Diogo Dalot, and automatically there was a shift, and then you could see the changes which were brought on at halftime when Jadon Sancho came at the 10, and you could see a lot of difference between how United adjusted and approached the game in the second half compared to the first half. So, how important is this adaptability, and especially in today's press conference where Ten Hag said that he does have an idea up his sleeve after watching the first leg. So how handy is this ability of being a tactical chameleon going to help us tomorrow in the return leg where the stakes are so high?
Well, Ten Hag's been adapting ever since we lost 4-0 to Brentford. Like, that is one of the things that I like about him, that the pragmatism that he has displayed over the months, because that he does not have the full cabal of players with him that he would like to play with. A lot of players in the squad are the kind that he is having to make do with. So the pragmatism he's shown is quite impressive, and I'm quite optimistic going into tomorrow's game, because no matter what happens, I know that United will have a plan to stop Barca. The fact that Barca are coming into this game without Pedri and Gavi, it's quite uplifting. Even though they'll have Sergi Busquets, a half-fit Sergi Busquets, but still he has been good for a reason, and he's always to be feared. So, in the last game, United in the central areas were completely man marking their midfielders. But I found it slightly funny that the moment Pedri went off the pitch and Sergio Roberto arrived, they did not man mark him. They just let him roam. So felt that that was quite an insult. If I was Sergio Roberto, I would have been quite insulted by that. But okay, so they have bigger things, bigger fish to fry, Barca. When you take an overarching narrative, what they have done in European football this season, it's quite weird, because they didn't play particularly well in the Champions League either. And they have conceded goals in the last game against United as well. In the league, they have been an enigma. Their defense has been enigmatic. Only 7 goals conceded. I'm not sure how they are managing that with Marcos Alonso as a left-sided centre back. It's miraculous. So a lot of credit to Xavi for that. But yes, given everything in mind, it's a drawn situation. So again, things can go either way. But I'm not going into this match thinking that United are underdogs. Absolutely not. I think we'll be entering the game at equal footing. Barca have their disadvantages, but then again, they have the players that can make up for the players that are not there on the pitch tomorrow. But yes, I'm not worried about United, that United could get a shellacking. They could, but it's not that. I'm not as worried about it as I was in the 1920 season in the quarterfinals when we faced Barca and actually were slammed in the end. So that is not the situation now. I'm quite happy. I'm impressed by the pragmatism that Ten Hag has displayed thus far in the season. And if he says he has a plan up his sleeve, I trust him to have that plan up his sleeve, and that to be proven effective against Barca in quite the same way that it did last week as well.
Yeah, so the game tantalizingly poised, two giants ready to battle, and I for one cannot wait to see what this game is going to serve us. So coming back to the topic at hand, yesterday I did a stream speaking about the entirety of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's ownership bid, which is concerning our takeover situation or the impending takeover. So I spoke about Jim Ratcliffe as a person, Jim Ratcliffe as a businessman, what the bid exactly is and how is it going to affect United, and if those people who believe that Jim Ratcliffe is the man Friday for us or the knight in shining armor, I went ahead and painted a picture of the current situation of his other club that he owns, that's Nice in Liga. So yesterday's stream was all about Sir Jim Ratcliffe and his bid pertaining to United. Today's today's stream will be solely focused on the Qatari bid. If Forgive me if I get his name wrong, but is his name Sheikh Jassim Hamid Al Thani? I hope I'm right with the
Hamad.
name.
Hamad.
Hamad Al Thani. Yeah.
So
So it's
it's Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani,
Al
but
Thani.
we
Yeah.
call him Al Thani for
Uh,
reference in the
uh,
way to.
Sheikh Jassim sounds better because his first name. I at least know the first name. Let me have my moment there. So it's Sheikh Jassim who's put out a bid of 4.5 billion, which is still not confirmed, but the bid is pertained to be somewhere around the region of 4.5 billion, and it's 100% buyout, where there will be no scope for Glazers to remain there. It's debt free, which means he's going to erase the existing debt and not add any other debt. And as per his report, each and every penny that comes from that bid is from his personal foundation, which is the 9-2 Foundation. He's a boyhood United fan, so he says, and the foundation is named after the class of 92 or from the year 1992 when he became a United fan. Munib bhai, let's start with the overall situation about the takeover. What are your thoughts about how many bidders have come in, because these are just the two frontline names that have been disclosed to us. For all that we know, there are a host of multiple bids that have
Yeah.
come in and which have been kept secret only for the sole purpose of anonymity, so that there is not a lot of where it doesn't come to a straight up auction. as a lot of the other bidders will fear with the Qataris at the helm, because everyone, even Jim Ratcliffe, had openly admitted that if at all this goes on to become an auction, no other owner can stand the prowess of the Qataris as far as if it comes to an auction is concerned. So, what are your thoughts regarding the takeover situation, and how positive are you that we are going to get this done by the end of the season? Because come the summer, major financial decisions have to be made, whether it's a new owner or whether it's the existing owners. So, what is your current mindset regarding the takeover?
A club of United stature, I don't think there will be just two. We obviously know there are more than two, but what has been revealed in the media are the two that are garnering the most interest. You know, be it for media houses, be it for their valuation, or be it for their respective names. So I definitely think there are at least five parties that have been involved or that have shown interest, but these two are front runners for various different reasons, and they've been probably made front runners because the media have kind of elevated them to that level, because both have certain profiles that most of our fan bases are divided on, right? So there's on one side there's this Qatari billionaire or inheritance wealth, something like that, and then there's a local who probably hasn't been local for many years, but he's still a local because he's born there and has love for the club despite trying to buy Chelsea, and and he will bring Manchester United, or bring Manchester in Manchester United. The most shittiest statement I've heard. I'm not against him. I like him as a person, and with my sole argument that no billionaire will ever be pure. None of their wealth will ever will. I mean, most of their wealth has to come through certain things that fold the law into half, and I don't mind either of them. But what my outlook towards it is that Glazers are going. That's something that I care about more than who's coming in or who's coming, who's not coming in. So that's my basic 2 cents, that I would love either of them to come, but I think that consistently the Qataris will be able to invest more because of the wealth that they have, no matter how they earn that wealth or how much sports washing they do. I mean, sports washing is a term that has come now, seeing examples of other clubs, which means other clubs have already taken advantage of such a situation. If there are no set laws or regulations for such things, I don't see a reason why we shouldn't be going for it too. I understand like the stature of our club and something that we've not done something wrong, but a lot of wrong has happened to us. You know, and it's about time we kind of get back to where we want to be using the modern way, which has been proved by business models of other clubs who've been owned by Middle East.
Yeah, totally agreed. As far as your point of sports washing is concerned, while City and Newcastle are the two prime examples, which have been floated around. I mean, no one really gives a flying sword about what Paris Saint Germain does, because they are Paris Saint Germain, and that league is an entirely different kettle of fish altogether. But these two clubs, especially Newcastle in particular, for all those who are talking about, or all those who are floating the term sports washing, a hook, line, and sinker as far as Man United's ownership propaganda is concerned. Just look at Newcastle United's away kit, then look at the flag colors of Saudi Arabia, and then you are free to judge what you want to.
I mean,
That is
I look at everything from a footballing point of view. I think football has a lot of wealth already. The the authority that is ruling football is the most corrupt organization in the world. We cannot point
precisely,
out we cannot point out corruption selectively because it's someone from the Middle East or it's someone from the UK or it's a businessman or it's oil money, when the whole industry itself is corrupt. So it's something that I understand what you're talking about, but it's really become the game now, and
precisely.
no matter what we feel, the game will continue to evolve in such a way.
It is the nature of the game to evolve, and if the players do not evolve, they cry that the game is foul.
I
Exactly.
it's not even evolving. There could be a certain term for it. It's
The game is
bad.
changing. The game is changing.
It's bad. It's not even a change. It's something that's bad, but it's also something that's the way. I think,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Anshuman, by talking about the impending sale, so apart from United, even Liverpool had put their club for sale, and they had done it before United did. Unfortunately for Liverpool, or fortunately for us, of whichever way you look at it, FSG have decided to pull the plug on the sale. Now, I'd spoken about this a little, I think, yeah, in a video yesterday, that Brendan Rodgers had put this very eloquently when Alexis Sanchez chose Arsenal over Liverpool from Barcelona. And he said that the main reason why players in particular do not want to join Merseyside or and want to join attractive destinations like London or Manchester is one simple word, and that's geography. So, how important do you believe geography plays a part in as far as the ownership situation is concerned? Because we are talking about two of the pinnacles of footballing institutions in the country. Both of them have had prolonged periods of dominance in the country and in the continent as well. Liverpool have been the most successful club in Europe, where and they too have a passionate fan base. For all that we talk about, Liverpool fans being the S word or whatever it is, they are very very passionate about their club, and they too are another fan base who have been quite disgruntled with their ownership. But that had seemingly subsided up until this season when they were competing on all four fronts or winning trophies and the lot. So my question to you is, how important does uh, geography play in a determining factor for prospective ownership, irrespective of how good the footballing project is?
Well, I think the ownership comes very little into the game as far as geography is concerned, because geography, as far as for an individual, it becomes quite important as to where you are applying your trade, which is why we see a lot of players liking the prospect of moving to London, to Paris, to even Monaco. The ownership comes into play when you are able to offer the other player something that, despite living in a very lavish city, they won't be able to get. Like no London club currently could offer Bruno Guimaraes the kind of package that Newcastle did, despite Newcastle not being as lavish a city as London. I think that is safe to say. So there is that when you are the kind of ownership project comes into place, when this is when it comes to place, that when you can be offered money and the kind of recognition that you wouldn't get by becoming a cog in another system like London, so that is where the geography comes into place. Manchester and Liverpool, similarly, like you pointed out, what Brandon Rogers said, are not ideally the kind of cities people love living in. The big people living there would also attest to the fact that they have their downsides as far as the weather is concerned, as far as the infrastructure is concerned. But you have to be either in a very exclusive category, which might bring you to the city, very few people will ever take those two cities over London, because when you take the international scenario, it also view the connectivity aspect also plays quite a role. So a lot of international places are directly connected to London, which is not the case with Manchester and Liverpool. So that strategic element is also there. So all of these things need to be kept in mind unless an ownership comes into place which can offer you the kind of money that the other team simply can't. So that's when the ownership comes into place. But the geography, I think, for an individual plays its part. In Usually it plays its part without the owner, if the owners are on a comparative level. So when we use the example of Liverpool and Arsenal, both are the kind of very similar projects insofar as the investment that goes back into the club is predicated on how much the club is generating as revenue. So then when you have similar comparable cases of ownership, then the topic becomes, okay, which is the better place to live in. So arguably, understandably, London becomes that option. So yeah, that is what it is. That geography for people, it's important for them to take into account what is the kind of place they're living in. Unless you have the kind of ownership in a relatively in a city that they wouldn't have otherwise gone in. If you have a kind of ownership that can offer you the kind of money you wouldn't get elsewhere, then your head is turned the other way.
Thank you so much, Anshuman. This was something that I was hoping to have a conversation about, because of the sheer fact that how much of a part does location play for prospective owners to look into how attractive attractive it would be, because yes, you did say that it does play a small role, but it does play a role itself. So thank you so much for enlightening me on that topic. So now let's come to the specifics of the Qatari takeover bid. Mudit bhai, your first impressions when the statement was put out. When the statement was put out, the key word in the statement was making Manchester United the pinnacle of footballing institutions across the globe, with continuous and prolonged periods of success. This is what the tagline for the Qatari bid is, whereas the tagline for the Jim Ratcliffe bid is as simple as, putting Manchester back in Manchester United. So both of them very intricately put taglines, which will immediately pique your interest, irrespective of what the amounts of the bid are. Even though the bids have not been disclosed, even if the amounts were disclosed in that statement, both of these taglines are intelligently put enough to just garner your attention. So, what were your first thoughts on the Qatari bid when it came out and when the statement officially came out from their side?
So, what I liked about their statement was they are not just coming to improve the club as a whole, they are coming to replenish or improve the whole area, right? Or their intention is not just Old Trafford as a stadium. The intention is Manchester. So it's not just limited to the fact that they will improve our infrastructure, stadium, and try to kind of get the best facilities on our training grounds. It's more of how they can use that to then make Manchester a destination for probably tourism, or probably known for footballing excellence. It's already known for having the greatest club in the world. But what is an add-on to that is basically an improvement of everything in the surrounding area, which also probably includes taking care of the population there in terms of giving them the best. So it's not just an investment in the football club that they're looking at. It's probably improving the standard of living in that area, or a lot of other things, you know where I think that it kind of did not did not appeal to me that much is that I don't think the local audience would kind of care about that much, because if as a United fan I'm looking at that, it it looks as it's big words. Even if it happens, it's not something that is very impactful. I did like the statement, but it is, I mean, it's tough to explain. It's kind of gloating a bit, but it's also something that they can do, because they can do that. Now with Sir Jim's statement, it's putting Manchester back into the club. It's something that will appeal to the locals, and the locals are very passionate about you know uh, the club. That is something that he used to make his statement very impactful. And since he's a local, that statement kind of made sense coming from him, and I liked it. It's something the local fans have full right to kind of back him because he's a local. But I found that what we wanted to hear from his statement, we did not. I understand debt is not a big issue. Our fans on social media are making a big issue out of clearing debt. Debts are there in every business. It's not shown at a high level, but at a low level, or to us as audiences. But debt is there in every business. Even if the Qataris own, there will be some amount of debt that they will have to bear. They cannot buy the club outright with such a big amount. So even if they will not put in like the 6 billion cash in front. They will definitely have receivables. They will definitely have assets that will kind of balance it with debt. But uh, that is something that is not understood by a normal fan on social media, or normal fans like us. So debt will be there on both sides, but the what United fans are worried about for me is they think that Sir Jim's bid is kind of similar to what the Glazers bid, and that is where the disconnect is. I am perfectly fine with what Sir Jim has kind of put forward, but what the Qataris have put forward is something that is not just limited to investment in the club and the players. It's investment into the area. So it's much broader. And Sir Jim had specific points, but I think the Qatari side had more impact.
Precisely. Well, it's very interesting to point out, where where Qatar intends to make United a whole community better as a whole, as from a community perspective. So, Anshuman bhai, my question to you is pretty simple. Does this come perilously close to the word that has been floated around, and that is sports washing? Because whenever there is a mention about a state-owned ownership, talking about not only making the club better but also the neighboring areas as a community or as a platform for cultural or global excellence, do you think that comes perilously close to that line which is called sports washing? Because now you yourself as journalist in the past week have just seen how multiple journalists have been caught in the firing line. While some of them have been doing their jobs, others have been coming dangerously close to something that is called as propaganda. So, as far as based on that statement, how close do you think it comes to sports washing?
That is a simple answer because it is a sports washing project where you can accept it, you can deny it, you can like it, dislike it. That does not change the fact that it is a sports washing project. We can talk about the overarching repercussions to no avail because, like Mudit has pointed out already, that in the overarching sense, it doesn't really matter much because this investment from nation states is the result of the hyper corporatization of the sport that has been happening for 30 years. So it's not thing that has started now. It's something that has been ruining the sport at the top level for a long time now. It's quite disillusioning in quite a regard. So it has been pushing people away from the sport at the top for quite a while now. So nothing new there. Is it a sports washing project? In a way, both of them are because people, when in general term, when people use the term sports washing, they try to refer to the fact that a nation state is coming in to launder its reputation by the virtue of incessant investment.
Yeah,
Well,
they make it sound. Anshu, they make it sound like an invasion, more of an invasion.
yeah,
From
it
what
is.
I'm
Yeah, they
seeing.
do make it sound like that, and it is a reputation laundering project for both of these parties. For the Qatari bid concerns the nation state, and the Sir Jim Ratcliffe bid concerns Sir Jim because he's not without his controversies. In the past, he has been a vehement supporter of fracking, which has terrible climate issues. And he has been quite famous for union bashing as well. He moved to Monaco right before at a time so that he could avoid paying more taxes or any taxes at all. So he has had his controversies, but then you compare it to compare it to the ideas of sports washing and the idea of in the general fact that people just don't really sadly care about climate as much as they do about the other things. People are not that fussed about Sir Jim's controversies as much as they are with the other party. So that is just the fact of the matter. This is a project that is reputation laundering for both of them in one way or the other. Each of it will have its repercussions, and they have put forward the message that they put forward with their bid was just a way to appease the fans because both parties understand that the common thread right now with the Glazers and the fans is that the fans absolutely hate the owners, have done so for the 17 years they have been there. So that's what they want to make sure. They want to make sure that if and when they enter, if they get to enter the club as owners, as majority owners, they have the fans on their side because they don't want to see all of this protesting. And for some, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's proposition is along the lines of, look, I'm a homemade a local guy. I'm the Manchester guy. I'm the United fan. So he's trying to present himself as the hero of the masses. He's what Qatar are trying to do is they are putting themselves as a party that will replenish the whole area and the community. Sir Jim Ratcliffe is channeling all that in by himself. He's saying that all of that idea has been channeled by Sir Jim Ratcliffe rather. So he's saying that, okay, I am the sole savior. Look at me as a representation of all that Manchester United needs right now. They need a fan owning the club, and so that is the kind of chord he's trying to strike with the fan base. The Qataris are saying that we'll come in, we'll replenish the club, the community, the teams, and we'll take United back. And I absolutely do not doubt that by the very nature of what that investment is supposed to represent on a larger basis. So yeah, so to answer the question, is it a sports washing project? Yes, it is. There are no two ways about that. There is a overarching discussion that can be had as to what it represents and all that if need be. But yeah, it's a simple yes or no question, and it unquestionably is a sports washing project.
Very interesting that you pointed out about the fact that Sir Jim Ratcliffe moved to Monaco, just in case to, reduce or not pay capital taxes or whatever form of taxes that is. It is interesting that he also moved to Monaco almost immediately after receiving knighthood as well. So there are not a lot of people who speak about that. And also his views on fracking. I believe that he is the only businessman who's currently in the petrochemical cycle who's vehemently in favor of fracking, which is why he's created a lot of enemies in his area of business. Only because of his views on fracking, and he believes that, and also his very brash take on that, that only intelligent people are will be ready to have a conversation on fracking, which more or less undermines the strength of the collective business circle apart from him. So yeah, not a lot of people speaking upon that, and very surprising to speak, considering the fact that everyone has seemingly been intent on washing the Qatari party's dirty linen out in public. Mudit bhai, just let me go ahead and just quote a few headlines for you. Any success that Man United have under Qatari ownership is not success. Man United and Qatar is a pairing that is wrong. Uh, we as fans can we as fans have every right to question Man United's Qatar bid. These are articles from Miguel Delaney, Jonathan Wilson, if I'm not wrong, The Guardian, and then there is Laurie Whitwell. These are just the three articles to name. As far as that bid is concerned, there has been a fair share. I think there was a human rights group. I don't know what the name is, whether it's Fair Share or something like that, who sent in an application saying that this bid is not an independent bid, because there is no scope for anyone in Qatar, no matter how wealthy you are, to make a bid independent from state influence. So, what is your thought on that? Because there are pretty conflicting reports concerning the legitimacy of the funds that are there in the Qatari bid. So, while there is this, there is I think it's Professor Simon Chadwick. Now, I know this name correctly. Simon Chadwick says that this guy, Sheikh Jassim, is very independent from the people who are the policy makers in the Qatari circle. While his father was formerly the prime minister, he is someone who's not held a position of power in the Qatari government for almost half a decade now. So he believes that whatever money is there is very different from the national investment project, and this comes under independent wealth or inheritance, the word that you rightly pointed out.
Yeah.
So what is your
So
take on this situation?
there are two things here. He is the owner or the chairman of the national bank there, right? QNB.
Yes, yes. Yeah, Qatar,
Right.
some,
His
yeah, and he
his
also held
his
a
personal
higher position. Yeah.
his at Credit Suisse or something like that. So his personal wealth is lesser than United's bid, right? So there's no question that he does not have. I mean, of course, he inherits or he will inherit a lot of money, but it's his personal wealth per se. It's not even equal to the amount that the Glazers want for United. What he represents is a consortium or is a group or is an institution that is worth hundreds of billions, right? So, speaking logically as a layman, no, he does not have a personal wealth that can buy United. But I don't think that any owner who would come in will put in their personal wealth. And that is something I think was more of the Qataris trying to show that the money is not entirely his, which kind of has been termed as the state's money, right? Which technically it is because the national bank is of the state. So I think it is state money. Yes, it is state money. I don't believe anything that will be said that no, he's bringing his own private money, which has been said all across. It's not. It's he inherits a certain part of the wealth, but the total amount of the club is not what he's worth of. That makes him borrow money from an institution that is of the state. So so yes, he does not have the money, but it's something that he's doing. Now that may or may not be sports washing or but then if you look at the other side, no individual or no billionaire will be able to pump in their personal wealth fully to buy United. That's about it. Yeah.
Anshuman, by coming to the similar topic, that there has been this constant bashing of the Qatari bid, especially on the heels of a World Cup that many have been open in their lavishing of praise, saying that this has been one of the best World Cups that have been hosted in recent memory. Now, of course, that could be a matter of recency bias as well, because this is a statement that we've heard after almost every World Cup. Let it be 2010, 14, or even 18 for that matter. I speak for only these four World Cups, but because these, as a football fan, these are the four World Cups that I have watched, and I have said it for every World Cup that yes, this World Cup is one of the best World Cups that have been hosted. So, what are your thoughts upon these journalists, Anshuman Bhai? As a fellow journalist, what are your thoughts upon these journalists who have been relentless in their approach, of somehow putting this Qatar bid for Manchester United in the shade, that everything that spews out of this bid is absolutely wrong, morally incorrect, or whatever the term, for lack of a better word from my side, whatever the term that is there. So, what are your opinions on this?
First of all, I would like to point out that I do not consider myself a journalist. It's not even in my designation. I'm just a writer and editor for a sports website. So, and the reason I'm pointing it out
I mean,
because the work that
he's
the
right.
journalists have,
You shouldn't be
yeah,
calling me a journalist too.
yeah. So, I cannot.
Journal-
Uh, in good faith, I cannot call myself that because the journalists have been doing quite a lot of job that I simply do not do. So I cannot in good faith call myself one. So see, the idea of agenda when you come to two parties, the one of the things is that a significant part of the media will unequivocally try to make an agenda out of everything. So for the UK, they have merit in painting Sir Jim Ratcliffe as a good guy, and painting anyone else coming from the outside as the bad person. So is there a bit of a xenophobia here? It is, unquestionably there is. But most of the journalists that have been getting abused, at least I have my social media timeline sorted in a way that I only follow the reliable sources. These, like you pointed out, the name of Michael Delaney and Adam Crafton is another one who has been doing quite a lot of work here. Their job is to just put the information out there, and that's what they have been doing, and they have been getting bashed for that same reason, because the sad reality is that this is just how football fandom works. We associate our identity and conflate it with the football clubs to such a degree that any comment made on our football club is considered an attack on our own identity. So this happens all the time. When Cristiano Ronaldo arrived back to the club, people were started pointing about the Spiegel report that went into a lot of detail about the Catherine Mayorga affair, and people took it personally. Then the Mason Greenwood situation comes out; he's exonerated. People are pointing out the facts, and then they are getting abused. So it's the nature of the football fan to react in a way because they consider it an attack on their own identity. The job that the journalists have been doing is just putting out there, by the very virtue of their profession, just putting the information out there. The Sheikh Jassim has been fronted as the man for the Qatari bid, just to make sure that the technicality that entails separating the Qatari state from the individual buying the club is separate enough for the Premier League to look at it and say, okay, this is different enough from who owns PSG, and this is individual enough for us to deem you are the legitimate owner. That is the technical aspect of it. That this is a sports washing project, for furtheration of a sports washing project, is not a doubt. The journalists are just doing their part, just the same way they did for the World Cup. Because in the 12 years that have happened, a lot of people died and have been exploited in making up that World Cup. Most of them from our country. That's just a fact. I'm not going into the good and bad aspect of it. It's not my place to. And they are talk of that is a country where homosexuality is illegal, and a lot of people from Qatar, especially, have gone after Adam Crafton of the Athletic, who has very personal reasons to be quite involved in making sure that the information gets out, because he is a homosexual man, and more power to him, because he's quite a good journalist and puts out a lot of good information out there. So absolutely more power to him. But then he also points out a lot of abuse that he gets just for doing his job. So there are a lot of reasons for why people feel attacked, especially the United fans. And it's not just the United fans. Sports washing works because it does. And you look at the work that Man City defend, the way Man City fans defend their owners, the way the Newcastle fans have defended their owners, and the way the most of the United fans will now defend the Qatari owners if and when they arrive. So the journalists have just been doing their job, even with the World Cup. That this is the human rights situation, this is the exploitation, this is the reality of the state, and this is just an information that is out there. None of this is esoteric. This is not like hidden agenda or anything. You take the agenda away, you take the morality away. This is information presented as purely as is possible in an objective sense. Now you can consume this information and you can make your own mind on it, because some issues are more personal, more passionate for people than other issues are. That's true for every single one of us. Like we talked about, I talked about the same thing when I came on for the Greenwood pod as well. The world, the society is fundamentally broken, and wherever you look, if you want to look, you will find incredible unfairness and societal exploitation. That is everywhere. But some things are more grave than others, and for some things strike with people more sincerely than others do. And the journalist's job in all of this is to just the point facts as they are. So this is what the project represents. This is why this person has been fronted as the official bidder. This is the reason. This is what sports washing is. This is what it means. This is what my money that has been put in. This is the reason it has been put in. And these are if you these are this is the legacy of your existing overlords. We are not pointing this as a good as a bad thing. This is not an attack on the country. This is not an attack on their culture, their religion, because the West has no foot to stand on this. Because sports washing, laundering their reputation and changing how their society operates is something the UK and US has been doing over the years as well. So there are no good or bad guys here. The journalists are just doing their part, and
Yeah,
a lot of them are getting abused for it. So that is something that needs to be kept in mind, that it's just the part of
I
doing their
agree.
job.
I agree. I totally agree. But in certain aspects, I mean, you asked me for certain examples. I will try to get them. But I've read all those articles. I mean, I
Mhm.
in certain things, I think as a reader, I before I read a piece, I read a headline. I already make an opinion about it. That's with most readers, and then I read it with that opinion, right?
Mhm.
So certain words do, did affect me in a way that the reporting is being biased, right?
Mhm.
Because I want a certain outcome, and that is something that is happening with people agreeing or disagreeing to the Qatar takeover. And
Mhm.
I wouldn't call it as a personal view. I would call it as something that suits their mindset with regards to what they want for the club.
Yeah.
So even if, like, the end objective of what a fan wants for the club, that's how they will read a certain piece. So it won't matter what a journalist feels, what his orientation is, or what he's
Mhm.
trying to say. What will matter is what the reader wants to get out of it.
Yeah. That's a
And
very
that kind
important
of,
point.
that kind of spoils the whole purpose of an opinion that is being made by the writer, and that's how he's getting the abuse. Abuse is hundred
Yeah.
percent wrong. It's awful, but I think every, I mean, I'm not suggesting this, but whenever I write a piece, Anshu, I kind of make it balanced for everyone who's trying to read it. You know,
Mhm.
even if I'm writing about sports washing, there are examples of it, and there are certain things that certain fans believe that even if it's sports washing, my team is successful, man. We won
Mhm.
trophies. To them,
Mhm.
only that matters. They've not reached that level of maturity in which they will kind of try to even go to the depths of what's happened behind the scenes, who has been killed, who has been molested, or who has been murdered to get the club where they are.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of the audience, or how they
Mhm.
kind of get it there, and getting those polarizing views onto the social media will honestly, it it will definitely get them negative reviews, but it will always get them engagement. And media houses are no saints,
Yeah.
no matter the
No.
individuals working as saints.
Mhm. No, yeah,
Uh,
that is 100% true that there are no good guys here. But we are presenting the information as it is. And the point that you made that is quite important is that most of the football fans, they consume football as an escape from real life situations, right? No one wants to take football too seriously apart from the footballing aspect. So when a new owner is coming in, they want to talk about what will be the investment into the club, which new players will come, how many trophies we will be winning, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters, because people consume football as an escape. And if you try to throw world reality at these people, they're naturally be agitated, because that's not what they're here for. And so yeah, that very much makes sense for me, because the majority of the fan base is just looking at this from a point of view as to what this means for Manchester United Football Club.
it's it's
Because
it's more like
yeah,
Glazers out permanently. Hush, I'm happy Glazers are out,
yeah,
rather than
yeah.
who's coming in.
True,
It's more of
and
that.
it's something that people talked about when the Newcastle takeover also happened. That it is not incumbent upon the football fans to become geopolitical analysts and expert and try to find the good and bad in all of this. But it is incumbent upon them to process this information as they see fit and then react to it as one can. Because football has been this is the result of what football has been going towards for decades now. So it's something that needs to be kept in mind. This is happening because it has been allowed to happen. So again, the overarching reality of what this means from a societal context is something that some people will look at it from a grave way. Some people will not. The majority just wants to talk about football. I'm acknowledging for what it's worth, and I'm more than happy to admit it for what it's worth. But at the end of the day, I'm just as hapless as I was with as I have been under the Glazer ownership. So I'll talk the same. So we'll be here talking about the same issues football wise. So far, we have talked about the owners that do not care about the club, don't want to invest in the club, just want to use the club as a cash cow. Whenever this takeover happens, we'll be talking about owners that are actually going to pump money into the club. There'll be new players coming. The whole dynamic will change, and we'll be talking about that in the end of the day. Because when you take this out of context and you take the real world scenario and the whole geopolitical aspects, it becomes a discussion that is existential, that does not really have a proper ending. Because again, no good guys here. It's an infinitely complex situation that I, for one, can say that I'm not qualified to speak enough on. So it's just one of those things. Whataboutism is something that people refer to when they feel attacked as well, because most of the just football fans who are football fans of clubs or sports watching projects, they react to this by saying, okay, what about this, what about that, what about
Yeah.
that. Just because something else is bad does not invalidate or evaporates whatever has been talking about here. So when you are a journalist and you are putting out an information, you're just doing your job and letting people know what exactly exists. How you deal with that information is for you to decide. Because whether you feel attacked by a journalist report, or whether you want to completely back the Qatari owners and you want to celebrate the Qatari ownership by wearing a Qatari flag, that is your prerogative. And none of that will change the fact that the fans have very little say in the matter. The fans are being appeased right now by these bids because it's good for the brand, it's good for the ownership, whoever comes in afterwards, and it's something to be kept in mind. How you deal with this information at the end of the day is on you. So that is, as a football fan, that we can do at this moment. The reality is out there for everyone to see. The infinitely complex geopolitical repercussions that exist out there are also up for discussion, that go way beyond football. But most football fans don't go beyond football. They want to talk about the players that are coming into the club and the trophies that's going to happen. So again, it's one of those things that the top level of football has been snowballing towards for quite a while. And Manchester United are just one another example of what has already been happening for over the past 2 decades.
Sorry, I was just sorry for being silent. I was just enamored by the quality of the conversation that was going on, and I just at this point is just take a seat back and just listen to what you both are saying. Just some really amazing point of views and some really amazing insights that have been coming out from both of you. It's very interesting that you spoke about prospective fans not making a lot about geopolitics just because the owners have left a bad legacy. And this has been the case for both Man United and Newcastle under Mike Ashley were a torturous fan base, a fan base that is as passionate as I've seen. I've not been to England anytime, but I've heard this from a lot of the elder football fan circle that Newcastle United possess one of the most passionate fan bases in England. Not, and they are some of the most passionate people talking about football. Like they're true Geordies, they totally, for them, the club is their life. It's their identity. It is what it is. Newcastle through and through. Also, for the sole reason that there is no other club in that city or in that locality, also, which more or less makes it their lifeblood. Which is why they will defend that head and toe no matter what the owners are, because of the sheer amount of foul feelings that they have for their previous owners, which is a very poor indictment of how the past owners have ran such proud institutions to the ground. So very interestingly, very eloquently put there, Anshuman bhai. Mudit bhai, now let's talk about our fans. For the first time we have seen this United fan base being divided on opinion as far as ownership is concerned. This is the same fan base that United has won in 1998 to make sure Rupert Murdoch doesn't buy the club. This is the same fan base that has been united almost for the past 2 decades for the sole reason of wanting Glazers out for the club. So much so that the fan base has had militant attacks on the Glazers before they are attempted to buy the club. This was the amount of unity that this fan base had. But coming to this side, there are genuinely, this fan base has been divided into it. If you take Twitter, an overwhelming majority of the fans want the Qataris to be our new owners. If you look at the survey taken by Athletic, although that's a comparatively smaller sample size, let's just take it as face value, like how Anshuman Bhai said. Let's take this information purely on the basis of face value. If we look at the Athletic survey, 67%, or that's two-thirds of the people who participated in that survey, wanted Sir Jim Ratcliffe to be the owner. And also, they were very concerned about the new owners not having any blemishes as far as the human rights or all those social issues are concerned. So, what is the current, uh, for lack of better word perhaps, what is the current mindset of these fans? Means, I'm not saying that if Qataris will be our owners, we'll see United fans wearing the bisht and coming to Old Trafford like what the Newcastle fans did. I'm not saying that is wrong. I'm not saying that is wrong by any stretch. But United fans are intelligent up to a point that they're not going to do this or have banners of, say, Sheikh Jassim or anything like that. But what is the current mindset of these fans in this divided opinion?
I mean, see, the mindset keeps changing from a day-to-day basis. I've seen people who've kind of been totally against the takeover to kind of come onto the side of the club being taken over. They've changed opinions like this, and social media and polls and website polls, they are no indicator of a fan opinion according to me. The sample size would be 10-12,000. I agree, it's definitely something tangible, but it's 100% not something that is a universal fact or a universal opinion. These polls were taken just to give the audience an idea about what, you know, the general, the general fan feels in the geography of the United Kingdom. And fair point. It's something that's okay, but that definitely does not represent what the whole fan base wants. Now, what's happened is with the rise of social media and especially Twitter, we see a whole new world there instead of just seeing a specific area of fans. So the opinions that are being set there by fans there by looking at opinions of fans that have been given there, right? So in totality, you would probably never know what the local audience feels about either of the parties, about Qatar or Sir Jim or any other party or even the takeover. You will always see, I would say, a 20% picture of what the original opinion might be. And then you form your own opinions about it and kind of make your own judgment about it. So there is no clear answer to what you asked. It's definitely vague. It's pretty vague. You can't base a poll of a local area for a club of this stature. I personally believe the global fan should also be considered. It's it's absolutely necessary because no matter what kind of local fans, I agree, they are great. They are great. They are the lifeblood of the club. They represent us in a gist, but we are also part of it in some way or the other.
Totally agree with you. And coming to the fact that we as fans who are not from the city also being an integral part, we've seen a lot of abuse directed at us just because of just because of the fact that we have a say or something like that, which is not something that we should be listening to. But then it is what it is. It has always been a part and parcel of mainstream sport. Not only our fans, but almost there will be a section of fans in every fan base. So Anshuman, by looking at, we've had a look on both of the front running bids, their statements or whatever it is. Based on the pure face value of the statement, at this current juncture, who do you think would be the better option? from a purely neutral perspective, based on what the information that has been provided from both the parties, as per as their statement, with all the facts. That is, with Jim Ratcliffe talking about having 69% of the club, with Jim Ratcliffe not mentioning anything about how he's going to erase the current debt that is there in the club, in spite of putting in a claim that he will not add any existing debt onto the club, or the fact that the Qataris are promised a total buyout with no trace of the Glazers, and the promise of making the club debt free. Based on everything that is at hand, at this current point, where do you think is the balance of power tilted in which favor?
Uh, I think I've been thinking about this ever since have been reading on the Glazers and understanding when and where they could be giving their money. They could be ready to sell Manchester United, and it has always looked very unlikely because they just broke even on their eventual initial investment of 270 million pounds, which they made in 2005, like 2 years ago. So. Unless a state-owned funding consortium came to the fore, it was always going to be very unlikely for the Glazers to take any interest in selling the club. And now one has. So I think that is the likeliest party to go for it, because they are the only ones who are in a position to up their bid, because the 4.5 billion amount that has been reported, it has also been reported alongside the fact that the Qatari party are more than happy to up the bid to quite a significant amount if the Glazers come back with that response. So, from a purely football perspective, who will be the better owner? The Qataris. With that, it's simple as that. And it doesn't really matter what I think. It doesn't really matter what I want. The purely objective resolution to the matter is that for the football club and for the community living there, the Qataris will be the better owner. They'll push money into the club. They'll revamp the stadium. They will invest into the squads. The debt will be gone, and they will invest in the community in the red half of Manchester, the same way the Abu Dhabi group has in the blue half of Manchester. And Manchester will become quite a more attractive prospect for everyone. And they will try to keep on the right side of fans, which will be an interesting prospect to see as to how that progresses over time. But yeah, if you are to talk about the football in as the as as removed as you can be from the overarching discussion, and so that is the only empirical truth that comes to mind, that the party that is coming for, given the intentions that they have, given the ulterior motives that they have, the Qataris will make better owners. That's Jim Ratcliffe.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to point out certain things about the debt aspect. Uh,
Please
that
go ahead.
I
Please,
spoke
yes.
earlier about it, that fans are overreacting to debt. So what this debt would be is that it won't be United's debt to pay. But what fans are saying is, eventually, if the debt grows with interest, maybe he'll start taking out interest from the club, or using it as dividends, or using it as his basic shareholding, or he'll sell certain part of his shareholding to pay or to service those debts. I don't think for one that it's he will use that debt against the club. He will use it against Ineos. What fans are pointing out is debt, and that is one thing that I disagree with. And that at that point I am on the side of, if Sir Jim Ratcliffe takes over, it's not going to be bad. It's not going to be Debt is not bad according to me. I've watched Shark Tank recently, and so I've come to terms. I've read about it, and the amount of debt that Glazers had put on, that wasn't wrong, but that the fact that they serviced it against the club and paid interests while not honoring the debt was wrong. So unless Sir Jim pays off the debt and does not lay the interest on us, it's okay, man. It's perfectly fine. And you cannot cough up 5-6 billion pounds without having an underlying asset as debt. It's something that I read about. I'm just sharing here. I'm not sure if I'm right or wrong, but I just read you should have an underlying asset if you're buying a club. The Glazers made that underlying asset Manchester United, but the Qataris might have some other asset which they will have as backup, no matter if they have endless amounts of money.
Their entire country, perhaps.
Yeah. Probably. Actually, I'm not
Would
going
you
to make
find?
anything. I'm trying to make sense out of it. I mean, I don't know how. right I am from the financial aspect, but this is what I think.
Okay, fair enough. Mudita, my question to you is that there is this one statement that has caught my attention. So there is a common line in everyone's article saying that United's success over the years. If you this is even way before the Glazer ownership I'm talking about, has been organic in the sense that we've been accustomed to Busby Babes who've been immortalized in our folklore, Fergie's fledglings, the class of 92, everything. And we also have that proud record of having a player from our academy for now, I don't know, for generations perhaps. So the fear here is that with Qatari money coming in, or if on the chance that the Qataris do become our owners, there is a realistic threat of that record or that proud tradition coming to an end solely due to the fact that there will be new players coming in. Uh, do you think that that's going to have a say in how things are going to pan out? Because yes,
Yeah.
as United as a club, our academy is our prior importance. We have had some of the best players in the world perhaps come out of our academy. We're talking about Sir George Best. We're talking about Sir Bobby. We're talking about the entire class of 92 perhaps who have had some of the finest English players of their generation. So this is not a small matter, perhaps. And even now, the academy has been providing players who are starters for England. We're talking about Scott McTominay, who's playing for Scotland. We're talking about Marcus Rashford, who is England's darling at the moment. So, what are your thoughts about this particular scenario?
So the statement from the Qataris specifically pointed out that they will not be, like, not the statement probably, but the reports or the media briefs that they've given, not like publicly, but via reporters or via their stringers, is is that they will heavily invest into the academy, and they will make that as priority along with new signings. What the other statement from Sir Jim has said is putting Manchester back into United, right? Which could mean the fact that, I mean, I'm taking it as something that he will definitely have a plan for the academy, but the Qataris have specifically stated that there will be a huge improvement seen in that. As United fans, we want that as priority first. So I mean, no doubt we would want signings. Obviously, who wouldn't want star signings? But they've kind of mentioned that along with that, this will be a priority too. We won't be overspending or something like that. We don't want to overspend. Even if we get bought by Qataris, I don't want us to spend 250, 300 million going crazy over transfers. Obviously, I'm not that kind of a fan. I don't think any of us loyalists would want that. It's it may happen, but I think they are coming in with the perspective of not overspending, at the same time making it world class. So it honestly doesn't matter. Even Sir Jim could do that, no doubt. Sir Jim could also replenish the academy, but there has been no specific mention. It's something that has appealed to fans for Qataris, is because they specifically mentioned these points, and that appeals, that automatically takes the interest in them higher.
Anshuman, my same question to you. What are your thoughts upon this matter?
Well, I have two examples to give from our near rivals in Phil Foden and Rico Lewis. Manchester born and bred, came through the academy. This academy had been revamped by the Abu Dhabi investment. So, when it comes to celebrating the academy players, we do that is as close as we can come to when it comes to romance in football in these days, because there is no aspect of football that has not already been dirty to some degree. And the it's not that it's not like Manchester United hasn't resorted to spending money before, by buying the main rival players and then winning the league on the back of that. It's not that hasn't happened before, so it's not surprising if it starts happening this again. As far as I'm concerned, either of those who come in, the academy will be refurbished to quite a degree, and the players who come to the academy, regardless of whatever the project Manchester United as a football institution remains, they will be championed. And again, same thing, regardless of what happens, because those who come through the academy, they are coming on the back of some kind of investment going into the academy, whether it's purely financial or it's purely human resource investment. So both of those things will be happening, regardless of what happens, which owner comes in. And because they want to keep the fans on their side, having academy players is something that Manchester United has prided itself on quite a long time, for like well over half a century. So I don't think that is going to change anytime soon. So we have a star boy Marcus Rashford right now. Someone else will come along in 10 and 20 years down the line, regardless of what happens.
Uh, lovely insight. With this, we come to an end of our stream. Mudeep bhai, Anshuman bhai, thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much for being a part. Some really insightful point of view. Some really hard hitting opinions about the fact, about what exactly the current scenario is, and these are very exciting times to be in. Particularly for me as a United fan who's not seen. Who had not seen the previous takeover by the Glazers. So for me as a United fan, from my perspective, this is a very interesting time to be in, and I'm certainly looking forward to what this holds in for us, not only on the field, because my bald magician has been doing a number on me now. So the love that I have for him is genuinely going to that unhealthy phase.
That
Uh,
image, that image
that
of him and Sir Alex, man,
yeah, it
too
just
much.
tugs your heartstrings in such a way that you just can't help but smiling it like a fool.
I
And
mean,
it's the
what would be
yeah,
the discussion that was going on there? I mean,
Phil Jones. Phil Jones. Imagine the discussion would be something as trivial as Phil Jones not being there being there in the club for so long. But nevertheless, it is that type of a picture that you can pull out any time of the day, and it
I
will
mean,
more
because that's not happened with any manager. I mean, it might have happened, but not at. I
not
mean,
so
in his.
publicly, not so
Yeah.
publicly. Exactly. The only I hate to be the spoiler, but the only inkling that I have is the last time Sir Alex Ferguson met a particular manager, for example, when he
So,
met Ole before the Europa final, or even I think he met PSG or someone before the final. Both of those teams ended up losing. So I just
so
hope that this is not the case here. And I just hope that that is not the case. With that being said, thank you so much to all of us all of you all in the stream who joined us and have been a part of this discussion. Thank you so much. Once again, telling to all of our subscribers, we are very close to 1,500 subscribers. So please do smash that like button. Do press that subscribe button and help us grow. We want to keep growing, and hopefully you are a part of this journey. Do follow us on Instagram and Twitter. The username is in the description. And please, every day is match day on our WhatsApp group, especially tomorrow. Tomorrow is not going to be match day. You will not feel out of place when I say that tomorrow is going to be Old Trafford in the WhatsApp group as well. So you not want to miss an opportunity to join us in our WhatsApp group. So please come in and be a part of our ever growing family. With that being said, this is Delvin along with Mudeep Bhai and Anshuman Bhai wishing all of you a good night. Do take care of yourself, and we'll be back soon with another episode. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy, and GGMU to all.
Bye.